Lisa Everly.
Yeah.
Can we talk to you a minute?
I'm not soliciting.
We know that. That's not why we're here. We wanted to ask you about your leg.
What's it to you? Your boyfriend into that?
Can you tell us what happened?
It got cut off. It was a long time ago. I'm not looking back, so...
Whoever did this, he needs to pay for what he did to you.
He already paid.
Excuse me?
For 25 grand, you can do whatever you want to me, too.
Wait, you took money in exchange for letting someone cut off your leg?
I don't expect you to understand if you've never been that far down. I was already destroying myself anyway. I was gonna get clean, go upstate, but all the money went straight into my veins.
We just really need to know who did this to you.
In New York City, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. These are their stories.
Hey guys, welcome to Munch My Benson. My name is Adam. I am sitting here in my kitchen where there has been an unceasing parade of car alarms and guys playing really irritating music at loud volumes driving past my window. I am joined on the line by Josh Dugan. How's it going, Josh?
Well, I've had a pretty significant life change. Having been convinced by this episode, I now only have one leg.
Spoiler.
But I'm special now. So.
That's right. You're beautiful, Josh.
Yeah.
So would you say you're on your last leg?
I'm on my only leg.
Yeah, man. So I'm trying to think if did we have any business to attend to before this one started? Because there's going to be a lot of fun stuff to talk about. I did watch part of The Skin I Live In after having watched this, but I didn't actually finish it. It's a Pedro Almodovar film.
Yeah.
That is, it's about body modification. It comes at it from a different angle that this one does. Antonio Banderas is a noted plastic surgeon whose wife dies in a fiery car crash, and he kind of dedicates himself to like saving these like basically terminal burn victims. And his the one that he's chosen is this woman who he's completely like rebuilt as his wife. Like she has the face and the body of his wife, and he has her locked in his house while he's perfecting her skin. Anyways, being an Almodovar film, it is both like funny and thought-provoking. It's really good. I've seen it before, so I was just rewatching it, but I am going to finish it probably when I have a little bit less work to do vis-a-vis these episodes. It's on HBO Max.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, which is nice.
It's one of the few Almodovar films that I haven't seen.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a really good one. Highly recommend it. I've also been doing these home improvement projects since the wife and child have been out of town. So I painted an archway in our apartment, and that turned out pretty well. I am mid-cock job on my bathtub. So it's getting hard right now, Josh. Nice. And after that we finish recording, I'll be able to pull the tape off and see if I fucked it up or not. What else? I had to fix the stroller. Am I forgetting? I'm forgetting one or two projects, I'm sure. But that's what I've been doing since they've been gone. I also got to go down to one of the locations listed in this episode. I saw some of our friends that live in Red Hook and got pretty close to one of the spots that are one of the cards is on, which is neat.
Did you fish out of the Gowanus Canal?
I did not, but more on that later, Josh.
Okay, cool. I mean, I have a note in here because I know Pike lives near there.
Right on. Yeah, it is close. I mean, I saw Gowanus when we drove down to Brighton Beach. We went back to my Uyghur spot. I gave them a few options, and they chose the Uyghur spot, so we drove down there. You been up to anything besides self-mutilation, body modification?
We went over to Jackie's sister's place.
Nice.
Yesterday. We had a fire and had a pretty sweet charcuterie spread.
Ooh.
We sharked it up, you know?
Yeah.
We went to what'll be the last Twins game of the season for us.
Well, that all sounds lovely. Should we just jump in with
fuck it. Let's do
with
it.
some feet, because there's a lot in this one.
Yeah, jump in with 1 foot.
Oh, before we get to the recap, Josh, what are you drinking?
Oh, yeah. I am drinking, it's a hazy IPA from Clutch Brewing. What Saw, bro? It's delightful. It's pretty refreshing. But
Is it
we'll
spelled
see.
CLUTCH?
Yeah, like the vehicle.
Okay.
Or like the auto part.
Yeah, or the Houston Rockets dynasty. But not like the
Not
coffee
like a coffee
clutch.
Yeah.
I'm drinking a cup of instant coffee because I was too lazy to make a French press before we started recording, and a River Horse IPA. Again, I got this this subscription thing with these small breweries. This one is great. It's also a hazy IPA. It's reasonably well. It's 5.7% ABV, which is nice, but it is delightful. Has Citra, Wakatu, and Simcoe hops, and I enjoy it quite a bit. I think it's my favorite one of the bunch so far. I still have an amber that I'll probably try as the next beer I drink on this episode.
Right on. Yeah, I've got a coffee going too.
Nice.
There's just a little bit left in the pot, so I'll probably be able to top it off we're going to record 2 in a row here, so.
Yeah. I felt like making a whole pot at this hour would just be a problematic later, so just went with one.
It doesn't matter when it's just you, though. You can do whatever you want.
I can, but, being an old person now, I don't, even if I go to sleep at 2 a.m., I still wake up at 6:30.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
Tell that to my back. Tell that to my knees, Josh. Anyways, you know who else was having a rough day? Nina.
We also have an intro of the episode.
Yeah. So this week we're watching Strange Beauty, which is season 13, episode 22. In fact, it is the episode that immediately precedes Rhodium Nights, which of course was the first of the 3-episode mega saga that peaks with Don Cragen waking up next to a dead sex worker in his bed, which of course we watched. It was episode 31. It's a bad way to wake up if you're a recovering alcoholic. This of course would be the first season with Kelly Giddish and Danny Pino on board, and let's just jump into this one. So Nina is having a rough night and wants to come back home to Mom, so she goes into the local car service to get a ride. The manager is not remotely helpful and directs her to go outside where a cab pulls up. The cabbie gets out, chases Nina down, and wrestles her inside. Concurrently, at a local dive bar, Amaro is putting on a billiards clinic for Detective Tutuola when Rollins shows up with her old captain from Atlanta. Nick and Finn fuck off immediately so we can get a taste of the looming shit show that is Amanda Rollins' backstory, from which we at Munch My Benson have thus far been mercifully spared. When the pent-up sexual tension between these two southern heartthrobs threatens to boil over, Detective Rollins opts to cool off outside for a second when she sees the cab containing the screaming, struggling Nina speed past. She runs after them, but to no avail, and the cab disappears into the night. The next morning, SVU is hard at work trying to find the girl. The cab had been stolen, but the victim never saw his assailant. Thankfully for the investigation, Nina's mother has been calling every precinct at the NYPD asking about her daughter. So Rollins and Benson head over to talk to her, where they learn that Nina had been getting heavily into tattoos and piercings lately. Nina's phone records lead Finn and Amaro to the rooftop pigeon coop cum love shack of Nina's phone records lead Finn and Amaro to the rooftop cum...
I mean...
Words, Adam. Words.
There is also rooftop cum, though.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get that in here. Nina's phone records lead Finn and Amaro to the rooftop pigeon coop cum love shack of Nina's former boyfriend, Pablo. Last night, Nina had come over looking to get back together, but Pablo wanted nothing to do with her crazy drama, so she'd left to go to the car service down the block. The car service guy is a real piece of work, but he gives the detectives his security tapes, which prove that Nina was the girl Rollins saw, and that the attacker was probably not the Sikh serial rapist that SVU is using to impugn not just the noble profession of cab driving, but also the approximately 30 million adherents of religion that have been victimized repeatedly by cruel, ignorant racists in this country and abroad. When medical examiner Warner calls you down to the morgue saying you need to see this for yourself, you know it's going to be good. And Benson and Rollins are in for a treat when she shows them a freshly severed female left leg with an octopus tattoo on the ankle matching Nina's that had just been fished out of the Gowanus Canal. The leg was amputated using a surgical saw, and there was evidence that the victim was alive and anesthetized when the limb was removed. The freaky freegan who found the leg happened to have found another left leg in the canal on September 8th, 2001. For obvious reasons, the first leg was never properly investigated, though it was still in cold storage, and Warner is able to confirm that whoever cut it off its owner used the same type of surgical saw and anesthetic used on Nina. DNA from the old leg leads Benson and Amaro to a one-legged prostitute working at lucrative block next to the Red Hook IKEA who tells them that she was paid $25,000 to have her leg sawn off under anesthesia, which means that our perpetrator had escalated from paying for the pleasure of delegging women to forcibly abducting them. Nina's legless corpse is then found in an abandoned car. She'd had a bad reaction to the propofol used to sedate her, and her heart failed, making this now a murder investigation. Spotting a fellow freak, Warner guides us through Nina's, quote, journey into body modification, starting with innocent bad ankle tats, sailing through eyebrow and lip piercings, before washing ashore on the truly far-out rocks of ear-pointing surgery. Is it possible that someone from this bizarre subculture was responsible for Nina's abduction? One of Nina's tattoos leads Finn and Rollins first to a trendy tattoo parlor on St. Mark's, and then to Seth Moritz, who was fired from the tattoo shop for running a body modification side gig. A huge tank of nitrous oxide in Seth's bike shop has a serial number that leads them to Dr. Gene Brightman, an Upper East Side cosmetic dentist. Seth is the boyfriend of Gene's receptionist Jess, who suspiciously flees the office while Amaro and Benson are speaking with the dentist. A quick twist of Seth's arm, and he reveals that receptionist Jess did Nina's ear surgery, and that she'll be working at Freak Night in Coney Island tonight. Resident freaks Finn and Rollins head down to the party and get quite the eyeful of tattoos, piercings, strange body mods, and indie circus performers. They find Jess performing another ear-pointing operation out back in a truck, and in a shocking surprise discover that Jess herself is missing her left leg and uses a Jolly Rogers peg leg to get around. While Jess is an adamant defender of the right to mod one's own bod, she is taken aback when accused of sawing off Nina's leg. She lost her own leg as a teen due to bone cancer, and while she is passionate about helping people become who they want to be, she claims she would never perform an operation that required powerful anesthesia or that would result in the kind of emotional trauma she'd suffered as a result of her own amputation. The squad is split on whether to believe her or not, but Captain Cragen sends them looking into Dr. Brightman's prescription records. While Dr. Gene hadn't prescribed any propofol, a psychiatrist named Dr. Hal Brightman had. He just so happens to be Gene's brother. Nick and Liv go talk to Dr. Hal, who claims that someone must have stolen his prescription pad because he still believes in the talking cure. Hal shuts them down when they start asking about his brother and the country house that used to belong to their mother that they share, so their suspicions return to the dentist Gene. He'd spent the weekend that Nina died with his boyfriend at the country house and hasn't come out to his family or his patients. Also, his entire reason for entering the field of cosmetic dentistry is because his mother lost her left leg in a horrible car accident when the boys were young, which left her face horribly disfigured. Gene also reveals that Jess was Hal's patient for years during and after her cancer diagnosis. Jess tells Rollins that Dr. Hal got a little weird when she decided to stop being his patient. She felt like she'd achieved what she could through the therapy, but Hal didn't want to let her go. She gets a little grossed out, understandably, when told about Hal's mother, and reveals that Hal definitely saw Nina's ears at Gene's office one time. Some quick math tells SVU that Lisa, the Red Hook sex worker, lost her leg about 6 months after Jess's surgery. Not wanting to tip their hand, Benson and Rollins sit down with Hal at his office and lead him to believe that they still like his brother Gene for the crime. He tells him about his mother and how both brothers sought out their respective careers as a direct result of the accident. He also mentions how trauma can be sexualized in adolescence, which might explain why his brother, who was 9 at the time, was doing this shit. Of course, as we and SVU know, Gene is a happily, mostly closeted, fairly normal gay man, and Hal was the 13-year-old adolescent who twisted his own mother's horrifying visage into a truly sick fetish. Benson and Rollins call his bluff, and he eventually admits that he never meant to hurt any of his girls, but that Nina never woke up from the propofol. He then takes them on a field trip to his storage facility turned operating theater, which is adorned with large glossy photos of the 5 women whose legs he'd removed before Nina's. Hal goes on a pretty wild rant before being cuffed, and we are left with a Rollins and Benson could be so much more if they just let Steve from Sex and the City saw their legs off and masturbate in front of their stumps, Dick Wolf.
Oh, man. I mean, like, it's going to be a fine line for you and I to walk to not get, like, inappropriate to the point of where it feels like there's no point during what follows in this episode that I want people who have had to lose appendages to feel bad about it. But this episode delights in a very, 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 very fucked up kink.
I mean, because it's interesting to me that he doesn't, like, keep the legs, right? Like,
yeah, you'd think that he would pickle them.
I don't know, but I mean, he's got a stump fetish, not
Sure.
a amputated limb. You're absolutely right, because we don't really have the vocabulary to talk about this gingerly. Thankfully, I have some wild diversions that I went on in this one, so we do not need to dwell on what Steve from Sex and the City was exactly doing with those photos of the stumps. So I guess on that note, should we just start with guest stars? Because we've got quite a few, I think, to talk about, and several of them are quite good.
Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously we have to start with David Eichenberg, who's playing Dr. Hal Brightman, Steve from Sex and the City.
Yep.
So he's born in Manhasset, Long Island, grew up in Naperville, Illinois.
That's where my landlord lives. And my pediatrician. Well, my kid's pediatrician.
Okay.
Manhasset, not Naperville.
Yeah, I assumed that to be the case. He was one of 6 kids. He had 5 sisters. He went into the Marine Corps Reserve after high school, serving for 3 years and reaching the rank of Lance Corporal. He bounced around the Chicagoland area while in the reserves, landing in a musical with Megan Mullally, Alan Ruck, and Kevin Anderson before applying and getting accepted to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, which took him to New York. He kept himself afloat with carpentry and painting while struggling to get theater work in New York. He appeared in multiple episodes of Homicide, Life on the Streets, and The Practice before landing a gig as main cast in Season 2 of Soldier of Fortune, Inc. Then he nabbed the part of Steve Brady, Miranda's on-again, off-again boyfriend and eventual husband in the Sex and the City franchise. Since then, he's had tons of special guest star parts, and then he landed in the main cast of Chicago Fire as Christopher Herman, which, you know, with those shows, it means he's been in all of the other shows in the One Chicago universe. So,
yeah.
But yeah, he's been in like 190
over 200.
episodes. Yeah.
193 episodes of Chicago Fire and like
and
over
then another
200.
Like 10 of yeah. So yeah, he's all over the One Chicago universe. Another Dick Wolf. Not even franchise, fucking universe, I guess. Then we've got Patrick Fischler, who's playing Dr. Gene Brightman, his brother. He was born in L.A. Patrick's Roadhouse on the PCH, right where Santa Monica gives way to Pacific Palisades, is his dad's restaurant and is named after him.
Ah, interesting. You ever get a chance to go there?
Yeah, I've driven by it so many times. I've never been there though. But yeah, I've definitely driven by it a solid like probably 25 times.
Nice.
So, went to Tisch after high school, where he met his eventual wife Lauren Bowles, who is Julia Louis-Dreyfus's half sister. He moved back to LA and co-founded a theater group, Neurotic Young Urbanites, with other recent NYU grads, which is where he was working when an agent saw him and got him the audition for Speed, which was his first major film role. You may have seen him on the big screen in The Shadow, Twister, Swimming with Sharks, Mulholland Drive, Ghost World, Old School, The Black Dahlia, Idiocracy, Hail Caesar, and Under the Silver Lake. He also had recurring roles in Mad Men, Lost, Southland, Californication, Silicon Valley, Married, Suits, Once Upon a Time, Doubt, Twin Peaks: The Return.
He's great in that.
Happy. Yeah, he's really good in Happy also.
Yeah.
The fucking insane Maloney pitch black comedy on Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
And then he's in the new season of American Crime Story.
Nice. Yeah, he's really good. He's excellent.
Yeah, and he has that vibe that makes sense for the character.
Yeah, he's got a very creepy dentist vibe. This is a very anti-dentite program. I don't know if you picked up on that.
It's also really anti-psychiatrist. But we'll get to that later. Next up, we've got Britt Lower, who's playing Jess Hardwick. She was born in Hayworth, Illinois, went to Northwestern, majoring in either theater, drama, or communication.
She definitely has
sites.
2 legs.
Yeah, she definitely does. There are 3 different sites that said she majored in 3 different things. So I don't know what to believe. But Britt Lower, you might want to, get that situated. Have it put on your IMDb bio and say that you provided it, so we know what you majored in. She after college, she did improv at IO, or Improv Olympic, and UCB. She is going to play a lead role opposite Adam Scott and Patricia Arquette in the upcoming Apple series Severance. She was main cast in Man Seeking Woman. She had recurring parts in Big Lake, Unforgettable, Casual, Pillow Talk, Ghosted, Future Man, and High Maintenance. She's really good in Casual.
Yeah.
Really good in Future Man, too.
Nice.
I think she's only in season 1, but Future Man's fucking nuts. She's also in the movies Holly Slept Over, Domain, Sisters, Mr. Roosevelt, and Mutual Friends, which starred Peter Scandavino. Then I've got Alana Levine, who's playing Shelley Rado. Yeah. She's from Teaneck and went to Fordham. She is married to Dominic Fumusa, who has been in a handful of SVUs, including Street Revenge. On the big screen, she was in Greetings from Tim Buckley, Girl Most Likely, and Kissing Jessica Stein. She was also main cast in Tanner 88, the Robert Altman directed, Gary Trudeau penned miniseries on HBO back in 1988, like a political satire. She also reprised the role that she played, Andrea Spinelli, in Tanner on Tanner 15 years later. She was Joyce, the gym employee who tells Elaine that JFK Jr. is working out of the gym in maybe the greatest sitcom episode of all time, The Contest.
Exactly. It's Shaq's favorite episode of television. I know that for sure.
I mean, it's so great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
We're Contest, the Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, the Seinfeld episode where they have to stop masturbating.
Masturbating, yeah.
Master of my domain.
Yeah, Master of My Domain. It's based on a true thing, a true contest that Larry David and friends had. She's also in 2 episodes of the original series and 3 episodes of Criminal Intent. She is the host of the podcast Little Known Facts with Alana Levine, where she's interviewed Bill Irwin, Zoe Deutsch, and many other artists.
Nice.
But then we've got Mike Watford, who's playing Sam Reynolds, and he spells Mike in the MWK way, which is a way to spell it, I guess. He grew up in Muscle Shoals. He went to college at the University of Utah, which is nowhere near Alabama.
I know. It's a very weird choice.
That's not where you'd think. Whatever. I really like Utah. I don't want to shit on that State, but
It's because you're really into soaking, right, Josh? Are you familiar with the soaking phenomena?
Yeah, of course I'm familiar with soaking. Come on, Adam.
I'm more into jump pumping personally, but
okay, right on. Jackie and I make soaking jokes all the time. Okay, so this is the first of 4 appearances as Sam Reynolds for Mike Watford, but he's played 4 other characters in SVU, including Mr. Davies in Uncivilized, which we covered back in Munch My Bets in episode 7. This sad sack POS has an inverted Jenny. He was recurring character in season 3 of True Detective. He was also recurring in the OA and Private Practice. He can also be seen in the films No Country for Old Men, The Kitchen, and the new Aretha Franklin biopic, Respect. Then we've got Bridget Barkan, who's playing Lisa Everly. She was the one-legged sex worker on Beard Street. She was New York City born and raised. Sorry, is. She is not dead. That's present tense. She's New York City born and raised. This is her first of 4 appearances as this character. And
Weird.
She was in, or at least 2. Fuck.
No, 4. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so this is her first of 4 appearances as this character. She was in 2 previous SVUs as other characters as well.
Yeah.
She was also in the films Rhythm of the Saints, Sherry Baby, and The Irishman. Next up, we've got Konstantin Maroulis, who's playing Seth Moritz. He was born in Brooklyn, grew up in Wyckoff, New Jersey, and was a finalist in season 3 of American Idol.
The oldest finalist.
Of that season, at least.
I think he was the oldest of all.
I checked it. I'm pretty sure it was just that season. There was a qualifier that he was the oldest of the final 12 in season 4.
Oh, okay.
He was also Tony nominated for Rock of Ages in 2009. He popped up in an episode of the original series as well. He's also in the Rock of Ages film.
Now, he definitely references his own music in this. His band was called Pray for the Soul of Betty. Yeah. That kind of, I guess, had some national attention both before, during, and after his American Idol.
But he left that band shortly after he was on American Idol, because that's kind of what happens with those artists generally.
Yeah, exactly. Because American Idol doesn't want to promote the band; they want to promote but they want to promote American Idol by using the people that were on it. But anyways,
Sure.
The band cites many artists and bands as influence, including Audioslave, Velvet Revolver, Incubus, Rage Against the Machine, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, and Neil Young. So
I've never heard of them, of course.
I will definitely have to listen to at least one track of theirs
to see
if I can stomach putting 30 seconds of it on this episode.
Yeah. He's also in 31 episodes of The Bold and the Beautiful and 2 episodes of Mozart in the Jungle.
Yeah.
Then we've got Nicholas Macaroni, maybe? He's playing Kenji Yoshimi.
Yeah.
He did his undergrad at Syracuse and got his MFA at Columbia. He's done 2 TEDx talks. It looks like, if his LinkedIn page is to be believed, that he is currently an assistant professor at Florida State. He has a movie that he wrote and will presumably star in that he's trying to get off the ground. It looks like it's in need of funding, and they're trying to raise that right now, which is called, at present, Sonny Boy. He used to write at Backstage Magazine, and he was in an episode apiece of Scandal, Elementary, and Unforgettable.
Did you find out what his field was at Florida State?
I can't remember.
It doesn't matter.
He'd been a professor at Los Medanos College, which is sort of in between Oakland and Stockton. Like on that, how the bay kind of comes in a little bit to the north, up that way.
Yeah, well, the Delta, they call that. So
yeah, whatever.
The Delta is fucking weird, but yeah.
Because it's still wide enough that you feel like that's still bay.
Yeah, there's shipping. There's shipping that goes up to
for sure.
Modesto and Stockton, but it's like all below sea level somehow, which doesn't quite make sense. So when you drive around there, you actually can't see the water because you're below the water when you're driving around.
Okay.
I've definitely driven past like massive landfills that are disgusting and terrifying, and also there's a very strange. There's like very old Japanese towns in there. So like when Japanese people were coming over to build the railroads, they're completely like separated from the rest of society, these Japanese communities. And there's a few of them. There's one that you can visit that, I don't know, I walked around it for a second. There wasn't that much to do. But
and this was not when they were interned.
No, this is way before internment.
This is the late 19th century.
Exactly. Yeah, late 19th century, early 20th century, like way before. I mean, I imagine most of the people that lived in these places ended up in one of those internment camps, but I don't know for sure. But it's a very interesting place. But yeah, no, Modesto and Stockton are two of the shittiest towns I've ever driven through in Central California.
Next up, we've got Alex Hernandez, who's playing Pablo Despero. This is his first of 3 episodes of SVU that he's in. He was main cast in season 3 of Hemlock Grove and in season 3 of Unreal. He's the boxer fucking the chicken coop. He was also recurring cast in...
It was a romantic setting.
Yeah. He was recurring cast in Black Box, The Sun, The Resident, and Search Party. He's also in Bloodshot, the Vin Diesel star vehicle. Last one I've got is Ralph Lucarelli, who's playing Nikos Ateliades, who this is his 4th episode of SVU. He was previously on Hunted as Gus, which we covered back in Munch My Benson episode 2. Hot Mike Sandoval comes in the back door. He's in 2 episodes of the original series, and he played a character called Cazarelli in 3 episodes of The Sopranos. That's all I got.
So, where do I want to start here?
Well, I mean, right off the bat, we see her trying to go to Odyssey car service, and I guess we're on an Odyssey of our own here, aren't we?
Yeah, that is a nice little touch that they brought in there. Now, one thing I would say... I just have a funny kind of anecdote from my own experience. A mutual former coworker of Josh and mine. Well, let's start it this way. So in Austin, where Josh and I both used to live and work together for many years, there was a woman that you would see around town. She was panhandling by the side of the highway, and she had one leg, and her sign usually said, "I'm on my last leg," which is, it's funny. It was a good, I never spoke to her. I never had really any interactions with her. But one of Josh and my mutual coworkers used to have, and this, many of the people we worked with didn't have a very good, what would you call it, valve for what's appropriate to discuss at work. Now, for many years, it was essentially male, almost exclusively male work environment. And even then...
Which lends itself to a lot of inappropriateness.
Yeah. And he would describe some fairly lurid fantasies that he had about that woman that I'd see on the highway from time to time. And so that's what I was thinking about the whole time.
I thought you were going to be talking about a Honda Odyssey. With someone, one of our other former coworkers. Not this.
But yeah.
So we have a definitive answer. Amaro is Cuban Italian.
He is Cuban Italian.
We speculated that he was probably Cuban, but couldn't find it. It is listed on the character's Wikipedia page, which I guess we did not check. But I know that
not
was
on the fandom page.
No, not on the fandom, and not on. Not there are lots of other places I checked, but yeah, I don't know why it was not listed.
So one thing,
to figure this out.
Before we get to the bar, because I have a lot to talk about the bar. Before we get there, 2012 was only 9 years ago, but we live in a completely different world for
car service.
Getting a car at the middle of the night in a weird neighborhood, like a car service. I vaguely remember using one of those, but it is not something I have used since I've moved here, and I don't know if any of them still exist. But yeah, that
I feel
used
like
to
it's
be
safe
kinda...
to say that this one does not.
This one was not it was not getting very many stars on the Google reviews.
No.
But yeah, so it used to be, kids, that you had to either have the number for this car service or like know somebody who had the number for a car service. Again, you kind of like moved around places that you weren't from as if in a dream in the old days. You were kind of like whisked from one place to another with very little kind of knowledge of how that was happening.
Yep.
You might have like a fold out map of a subway or something if you lived someplace, but you were never getting on a fucking bus if you didn't know exactly where the bus was going. And you're certainly not, you couldn't just like tap your phone a couple times and have a car show up in 5 minutes. And so, yeah, how things have changed.
That said, New York is serviced by a subway system.
It is, but you don't know which neighborhood she was in, and she was going... what's interesting is that...
Well, she was just down the block from what's-his-fuck's, the chicken coop.
Yes, and we will get to where exactly that was, which was actually was walking distance from where her mom lives. Maybe a little bit of a hike, but not that big of a hike.
Yeah. But she was trying to get away from someone. That was really the operative thing.
Yeah, and it was definitely far from where she is seen by Amanda Rollins, which
yeah.
I found out which bar Amanda Rollins was at.
Nice.
Using a little bit of sleuthing magic. So the bar they were playing pool at is called the Parkside Lounge. And it is described as, quote, it features, quote, an eclectic roster of local electric and acoustic acts that play at this funky East Village mainstay. It was established in 1956 and is hailed as the Champagne of dive bars. It's an old-school juke joint on the Lower East Side that they just don't make them like this anymore. They have live music 7 days a week, cheap drinks, no high-fructose corn syrup, and 100% tourist-free. It looks like a fantastic dive bar. It's one that I would totally go to if I'm down there.
I'm looking at it right now.
It's a little far from... So, like... When I go down to that part of town, I'm going closer to the 14th Street side of the East Village, and so I've got kind of a dive bar up there. This is a little bit further south. Now, Rollins, when she's yelling into her walkie-talkie as she's running after them.
No, that's her phone. She calls.
She calls. That's right. She's in her phone. When she's calling into the phone, she says the right address for that bar. It's at the corner of Houston and Attorney Street. But what she doesn't tell us on the phone is that the car makes a right turn off Houston down Attorney,
and then turns left onto a one-way the wrong way.
Well, no. It speeds off down the block. We see her like chase it for a block, and then it speeds off down the next block and disappears. What she doesn't tell us is that next block that it speeds off down is a cul-de-sac dead end, which ends in the playground of a public elementary school. But yeah, it's a real bar. It looks great. It looks like the kind of place that I would want to go shoot pool at. Doesn't look like a cop bar, but who knows, maybe. But yeah, so that was my first really weird digression. Not the last.
For the listeners, we had to put this off for a day because Adam was like falling down far too many rabbit holes. Mm-hmm. So
not the last.
No, surely not. Probably
not
the most normal rabbit hole you fell down also.
Well, you'll be surprised. So
I like them playing pool here.
No, Amaro looks like he's pretty good at it.
Yeah, and this is another one of those like, oh, this is fun, Amaro. He can be a fun character. We just don't get that.
We don't get it enough. Yeah. It's interesting. We've complained about Amaro's character a lot and Rollins' character without having to kind of like wallow in the muck.
We've had to wallow in a lot more muck with Amaro than with Rollins thus far.
Yeah, but still, we haven't gotten the worst of the worst yet. And Danny Pino's a good actor, and he's fun here, and like there's a good back and forth between him and Finn. I really liked it. And then you can tell when Rollins walks in with that dude that they're like, oh, fuck.
Fuck this guy. I don't need this. I don't need this fucking Georgia bumpkin up here telling me what to do. So this guy, Sam Reynolds, this is his first appearance on the show, but he'll pop up in a few more Rollins' Atlanta Life Follows Her to New York episodes. Mm-hmm. It seems weird to be introduced to him here, and he says that he and Cragen go way back, but we don't see him interacting with Cragen at all.
No.
I mean, we know why, because obviously he just wants to bone Rollins, but which is what every separated man in New York wants to do, I guess.
Yeah. But so this episode was clearly like underwritten by Uber or Lyft or whoever was trying to to undercut the taxi cab industry,
yet?
right? I don't know. I don't think they'd started yet, but somebody was like starting a PR campaign to undercut the cab industry, because this is just like it's a hit piece on multiple different industries, but the first one it's a hit piece on is the cab industry.
Rollins, still here? What are you, fishing for OT?
No. Last night, I saw a girl. It's a possible abduction in a cab on the Lower East Side.
It could tie in with the yellow cab rapist, the Sikh. We have 2 open cases from last year.
Okay, anything more solid to go on?
Thankfully, Nina's mom has been calling everywhere, and so they get her phone records, which is, it's not like a one-to-one transition why the phone records lead them to that kid who's like, I guess, peddling dope that knows Amaro, but whatever. So they go out to meet this kid who leads them to Pablo. And that is Lithuania Square, which is in Williamsburg, which is quite... Did you figured that out too? Could you?
Yeah, well, there was a Lithuania Square sign in the car, or in the background in the scene, and I was like, wait, why? I was wondering why Amaro knows this kid, because it's in Brooklyn.
It's not supposed to be his.
Then I'm trying to think, like, wait, does Amaro live in Brooklyn or something? Like, is this his neighborhood? Like, it's not like they don't go to other boroughs, but I don't know why Amaro would have, like, kid, possible drug dealer, like, very young. Like, this kid is, like, 13 or 14. But, like, young teen drug dealer contacts on the street in Brooklyn.
Like, but they have like a kind of like a witty repartee going back and forth. Yeah. Like,
no, it's fun. I'm not saying it's not fun. I just don't know why. I don't know how this happened. Mm-hmm. Especially like when we see Lithuania Square in a sign. Like, it'd be one thing if it's just, oh, whatever, it's fucking Harlem, or it's somewhere on Manhattan Island.
But yeah, we never really hear, at least to my knowledge, we haven't heard exactly where he came from in the department.
Sure. I looked it up too, because I was actually curious and I couldn't figure it out.
The kid points him upstairs to a chicken coop, which is not a very...
Pigeon coop.
They said pigeon coop, where, a classic New York locale. We all think of Ghost Dog waving down waving down the birds. But he is getting his bone on.
Yeah, we've got ourselves a Golden Gloves pigeon fucker here.
Well, first off, we never talked about the weird camera with the cut on action to the security footage in the cold open, which I thought was a really interesting.
Yeah, it's like, wait, are we going back to The Wire here or something?
Yeah, no, exactly. It was so strange because I'm watching it. The first time I watched it, I was kind of getting set during the cold open, and it's all of a sudden it's silent and it's just the tape of the security footage running. It was very very artsy. I thought it was quite interesting and well done with the way they edited it together. But they go to the car service guy. The car service guy is fucking something else. He is not helping their investigation one fucking bit. I told her she needs to go outside to make the call. That guy exists here.
I mean, he's not there to help anyone.
No, that's not really his role. He's busy. He's got a lot going on.
Yeah, it's like, motherfucker, you just sit there. Like, you do not have anything going on.
I haven't read Catch 22 in a long time, but I thought it was funny that Finn went right there. He said, this guy must have been in the army. It's Catch 22. But you have to go outside to make a call to get the car that you need to be there to get.
Finn often feels like Yossarian, I'd imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely see that. Now, you know when Warner says,
Oh, yeah.
you have to see this for yourself, you know it's going to be great.
And we got ourselves a fresh leg here.
We got ourselves a fresh leg. It is very cleanly sawn off. It is not... yeah, it's got a very shitty octopus tattoo on the ankle.
Indeed. I don't know how you would get addicted to tattoos and, go further down the rabbit hole with that being your entree into the world.
And to be fair, so we are told that she got addicted to tattoos and she's well nigh covered with them. That's what her mother says. We saw 2 tattoos on her. And we saw a fair amount of skin between the leg and the body. We see quite a bit of skin. Not all of the skin, but it's not like she had a sleeve anywhere.
Yeah. They're all taint tats.
It's just... Oh, that's what they're doing down on St. Mark's these days.
Yeah. That's taint tat mecca.
And so this is where I get into the weeds, Josh, because
I'm sure you do.
Because no one fishes in the Gowanus Canal. It's a Superfund site. And we go meet the guy who apparently does fish in the Gowanus Canal.
Well, he fished it out of the canal. I don't think he actually fishes out of there.
Yes, he does. He says he eats the fish for dinner every night. That's what he says.
Did he really say that?
He said that,
That's
yes.
terrifying.
I'm the river keeper. Everything I need is down here. I find the scraps for my inventions, the fish I eat for dinner.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, huh?
So, in addition to being a hit piece on taxis, car service, Sikhism, psychiatry, and dentistry, this ep is targeting weirdos who are attempting to use radical recycling to live off the grid. Because this guy is based on a real-life guy, Josh. Now, the real-life guy is not special in the kind of simple Jack manner that this guy is. It's a guy named Adam Katzman. This sent me down on such a weird rabbit hole. I go in so far on this stuff. But anyways, in May 2011, the New York Post wrote an article about 4 houseboats in the Gowanus Canal that they all live there for free. And it was presumably illegal because to live on a houseboat in New York, you have to have a permit to do so. Now, you don't have to pay necessarily after that, but you have to be permitted for where you docked. And at this point, Gowanus had already been registered as a Superfund site, so you couldn't get registered to tie up in Gowanus. And Gowanus Canal, it's a canal that runs through Brooklyn, and it was a site back in the old days of tanneries and refineries and other things like that.
Industrially ravaged, as Sam Cedar says at the opening of every episode of the Majority Report.
Yeah, exactly. It is considered one of the most polluted waterways in the country. Now, it's a funny entree into how the news media works in the modern clickbait era, because 5 outlets wrote an article on it on the same day, which I think was May 16th.
Of course.
May 16th, 2011. But 4 of them were all kind of glomming onto this New York Post story about it, which is in ridiculous fashion. So there were 3 boats tied up in one spot, and they were considered to be they were, quote, occupied by hipster 20-somethings, are docked behind a truck lot off President and Bond Street, and neighbors said they're known for late-night canal parties and pretty girls sunbathing on the decks. But there's another boat that was a few blocks south, and this was occupied by Adam Katzman, who is an avowed environmentalist. Now, I've seen a movie, a short film about this guy. He was like a radical environmentalist who considered this boat an experiment in living off the grid. So he used human manure to both dispose of his own waste and to fertilize the hydroponic agriculture that he was attempting to do.
Sure.
He had solar panels on the roof, which were problematically freeze over, and so he didn't have power very much in the winter time.
Mm-hmm.
And he collected rainwater.
Did he keep himself warm by burning human?
He had a wood burning stove in there, and he collected rainwater, which he said was, quote, good enough for 1 or maybe 2 people. But the interview with him, he's looking pretty fucking rough.
Sure,
anyways,
of course.
As far as I can tell, Adam Katzman has moved on to primarily doing solar system installations. And apparently, if I'm correct,
you're talking about mobiles of the solar system, right?
No. Well, if I'm correct,
in children's bedrooms.
Yeah, he's the owner-operator of a company called Hudson Valley Solar Energy Systems, and seems to be doing all right for himself. Now, there's a much larger community of kind of like freegan voters in the Newtown Creek, Newtown Creek is like the Gowanus's bigger brother. Newtown is between Brooklyn and Queens. It's a little bit further north, and it's quite a bit longer. Now, both of them were declared Superfund sites at the same time, but Gowanus being a shorter waterway, it was a simpler dredging project, and the dredging in Gowanus has already been underway. As far as I could tell, all those squatters in Gowanus, they don't appear anywhere after Sandy. So Sandy struck in 2012, in November 2012.
Yeah.
December 2012, I think.
So their houseboats were probably fucked up.
Well, from Google Earth, you can see where some of them might still be kind of like half sunk, but I don't think anybody's living in them now. Now, in Newtown, there's definitely people living in them. There's a lot more. And it suffers from similar issues, like they're going to get kicked out because the dredging is about to start.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a fascinating world. People living off the grid on weird boats. Now, I've always been fascinated with this because Galveston has some of these people. Los Angeles definitely has these people. If you've ever been down to Long Beach, to the harbor, there's a huge community of those people out there. But more power to them. Now, back to Law and Order SVU.
So, do you think that Nina's mother was able to lobby to get Nina included in the people who fell on 9/11? Because 9/11 took another victim here.
It did. It really did. Well, did it take Nina, though?
Yes, it absolutely did. Because the only reason she's still there is because he was never found out because of 9/11. I mean, this episode just gets so weird.
It's so weird.
Like, okay, so we've got Lisa voluntarily hobbling around Beard Street on a prosthetic.
No, actually not Beard Street. I was just on Beard Street on Saturday of this week, and it's not very long. It goes between, my friend's house and IKEA, and half of it is still cobblestones, and so she would have been on the other half that's not cobblestones, and it wasn't there, and it wasn't anywhere in the immediate vicinity that I could tell. But yeah, it's kind of a weird spot to be hooking also, if that's what she was doing, because it is really out of the way, Josh, like really fucking out of the way. It's a half-hour walk from the nearest subway
that's
station. Probably
where the niche I don't need to go farther into that. I don't want to. Oh man! Like, okay, so she just shoots the 25K of leg money into the toe gap in her remaining leg, I'm sure.
I don't think she was really toe gapping it, Josh. She didn't seem like the kind of junkie that needs to hide your.
She toe gap because it's the only place left that a needle hit a vein. The needles have receded into like as close to the bone as possible to try to get away from her. I love Cragen.
I'm still trying to... Are we really looking for somebody who pays for the pleasure of amputating women's limbs?
Nina wasn't paid, Captain. She was abducted.
Okay, so he's escalating?
If that's not the cold open of our episode...
No, it's the best fucking line.
It's really good. He's like, I'm still...
Like, I know he had problems wrapping his head around, like, someone feeling like a trans woman was a woman, but I get this. This is a kink too far, I think.
Well, I think which we kind of like talked about with Armie Hammer, right?
Yeah.
I think a kink that everybody is able to walk away from, so to speak, without having any bodily harm done to them is a fine kink.
Absolutely.
But I think when you're talking about consuming somebody or drugging them and removing their limbs for your own sexual gratification.
No. It's to make them special, Adam. They were boring before.
Sure. It's a pretty big step for me, so to speak.
God damn it. I feel bad too. This episode, it makes me feel bad for laughing.
I know, but
no, I mean, it's here. We're just playing with the source material that we're given.
I did not care for the ear makeup on Nina, at least. I thought that the other woman had, if it was ear makeup, it was better done. But
oh no, the other woman had elf ears, I'm sure.
I couldn't figure out who she was. I was trying to figure out.
I know. She's.
Anyway,
so Nina's. It has to be. It was Tiffany, wasn't it?
It's possible she's like a real Coney Island freak. I've met real Coney Island freaks before. Years ago, I went down there randomly just to kind of see what it was all about, and I was changing the film in my film camera, and this dude walks up to me with like big earplugs and tons of weird tattoos. And he was like, "Hey, you still use film? That's awesome. Let me show you my freak show. You don't even have to pay me for it." And he's just like on the street. He's like one of those pain freaks. And so he was nailing nails in his nose, and he was pouring broken glass on the ground, which he was doing like push-up drops onto and walking on and stuff like that. And all the while, while nobody was giving a shit about this dude's act, just berating the people that were walking by. It was a really wonderful experience. Love that guy.
Okay, so I think it's Jennifer Onvey.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. That's who I thought it was, and I didn't go past the IMDb page to find a photo.
Here, and it looks like she has normal ears, though slightly large. But I think she also kind of has ears that lend themselves more to elfing.
Okay.
Where the makeup wouldn't be as extreme to make it happen here. I mean, I'm looking at them. God damn it! This fucking show. But it's Jennifer Onvey who's playing Robin.
Now, Warner seems to know quite a bit about the Coney Island freak community.
Her body, it's a record of her journey into body modification.
How does that track with her leg being forcibly amputated?
Well, that's your job. What I can tell you about the subculture is it pushes the edge. Tattoos used to be subversive. Now kindergarten teachers have them, which means the fringe has to go even further. I've seen stretched earlobes, forked tongues, steel plates implanted under the skin. Amputation is the next frontier.
Warner knows a lot about a lot of things.
She knows a lot about a lot of things, but typically what she knows about are things that she's, kind of partakes in. She knows a lot about fashion, and she knows a lot about,
Paris.
She knows a lot about, motile sperm and other things like that.
Because she participates in motile sperm.
But so we sort of start, this is where we start our journey into the world of freaks, right?
Yeah, once Nina turns up in the Gowanus Canal.
Exactly.
Or sorry, in the trunk next to the
in the trunk next to the canal. And we see her ears. So my question is, what body mods does Warner have, Josh? Do you think she's got one of those weird like Stegosaurus back?
I think she's probably got subdermal implants. Maybe she even has wings.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. We never see her with her shirt off, so it's possible.
She could.
That white tattoo that Rollins has, that's fucking cheesy, right?
Yeah, and they mentioned it again in season 19.
I don't want to tat shame people, but most of the tats we see in this episode that are not on the freaks at the Freak Fest are fucking cheesy as hell. But the white Amanda in script is embarrassing, and I feel bad for Finn for having it pointed out to him.
Does it just say Amanda? I couldn't make it out.
As far as I could tell, it was Amanda, but it might say something else.
Yeah, it was something in cursive. I figured it had something to do with her not gambling.
It's possible, but
because it was all because she didn't place a bet during March Madness.
Yeah, That's why she got it. It was a
Yeah.
present to herself.
But it just seems like a weird gift to give yourself a white tattoo of your own name.
Now, I have not watched the man's American Idol performance, but I'm a big fan of Seth Moritz in this episode.
Like, I figured that his character's probably in like a Mr. Bungle tribute band.
I love how he says the only ears I mess with are through my music. He also says, I didn't know dentists qualified as special victims. I love this fucking guy.
We need to talk to you about Nina Rado.
Nina who? The girl you talked to about getting the Spock ears.
Not Spock, Grandpa. Arwen. You know, Liv Tyler. Lord of the Rings.
So you did talk to Nina about operating on her ears.
Hey, you're not gonna get me on that. I don't mess with people's ears. Except with my music.
Arwen.
It's Arwen.
You know, Liv Tyler.
Lord of the Rings.
I love a universe where, like, Lord of the Rings is cool and Star Trek is lame, right? Like, this is...
like, nah, bro.
This is a place that hasn't existed for me in a very long time. This is a very small tranche of the world that timeline existed. Now, okay, so we skipped up.
To be fair, probably there certainly were like sects of the weird extreme nerd culture that probably did feel that way, but
it's like a Burning Man adjacent, Maker Faire adjacent kind of like steampunky kind of world. I've had to.
And, I mean, steampunk was also happening right here too.
Sure, yeah, sure. And like in Galveston, we have the Dickens Fest, where people dress up in Dickensian garb.
Because when I think of Charles Dickens,
you think Galveston.
I think of Galveston, Texas.
You sure do. But yeah, it's huge. And for years, I never went, even though the organization I worked for several years put it on, and they kept trying to hoodwink me into volunteering for it. And so I never went to see like who it was. Was it old people dressing up, or was it like, steampunk freaks? And it's kind of a combination of the two. But the Mermaid Inn in Coney Island is apparently where the freakiest of the freaks go. Now, I was unable to find a Mermaid Inn, but Coney Island is known for hosting the famed Fiji mermaid of Barnum and Bailey fame.
Okay.
Which was so it's one of those famed cryptids, right? So Barnum and Bailey claim to have this mermaid that came from Fiji. It's a really weird looking desiccated little thing, and it's been shown later to have been like, they sewed together a bunch of different animal parts to put this thing together, but somehow
what?
Yeah, but it's kind of in local lore. So there's like a mermaid. Sure. Yeah. Parade in Coney Island. The beer from Coney Island is Mermaid. No, they have like a Mermaid Pilsner. That's the Coney Island Brewery. So it's part of the Coney Island community, and they were definitely filming there. Of course, we avid listeners of Munch My Benson will have already been to Coney Island if they watch Shakedown on our recommendation, where they drive the Cyclone off of the roller coaster in epic fashion.
And Shakedown, just fantastic.
I mean, I'm just bringing that up right now just to plug Shakedown again, because do yourself a favor, watch Shakedown.
Watch it.
But yeah, there we see a lot of freaks doing a lot of freaky Burning Man shit.
Burning Man would be a lot cooler if it was more like this.
I know.
Like Burning Man.
I know, but so like Amanda is looking quite elfin, honestly. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, they elfed her up.
Yeah, they. Well, she asked the elf chick who has like weird scarring or burning or branding or something on her back.
Yeah,
which I couldn't quite figure out where she got her ears done, and the chick was very quick to proffer up the illegal ear modification business out back in a truck.
Well, that's because she could tell that Finn was into it too.
Yeah.
Anything for my baby.
So they go out back, open up the truck, and of course Jess is in there, mid-carve on an ear.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's a whole investigation going on, but they didn't appear to call a bus for the chick who was getting her ears carved. And frankly, I would want somebody, like, even if I didn't get the surgery finished, I would want somebody to fucking patch my shit up, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, she was making a cut with the scalpel.
I'm kind of surprised that Rollins didn't reward herself for getting through this episode with a sweet pair of elf ears.
She seemed to be pretty into it. Or, you know, maybe something she could wear to work a little bit better. So something kind of under the clothes. Thinking of
How weird would it be if you had a detective working your case and they had elf ears? Is that a job stopper?
I imagine she would keep her hair down most of the time, but she definitely pulls it back. So no elf ears for her.
I have to say that this trip down the body mod rabbit hole is delightfully weird. So good on you, SVU.
It is. It really is one of those, like, they're relishing the research that they've done. You know, they certainly talked to some people or read some articles about this.
I mean, they had the fucking weirdo what's his face guy too. You know, your Adam
Katzman. Yeah,
Adam Katzman. I mean, they just got weird on this episode.
They did. They got weird. They got weird all over the place. And I love that 9/11 comes into, like, really they're dropping bombs left and right here. And at this point, we're kind of into the doctor's Brightman world.
Well, they bring in Jess first, and they like Britt Lower just gets this, like, she gets to do this, like, high and mighty approach, like, you know, where she's talking about body modification and
I mean,
she's relishing those lines about just, like, empowerment and like owning your body, however it is. And then, you know, they start asking about Nina, and she's like, the instant dead Nina's in the convo. She's like, oh, no. I don't fuck with propofol.
I don't fuck with that shit. Yeah.
I'm a lidocaine lady.
But I mean, I feel like she nailed the Maker Faire kind of, like, empowerment nerd. Like, she was really, really shown through as that. I thought it was great. Also, I was trying to figure out how they did the leg effect.
I know. I was thinking about it a lot. Like, it feels like she probably had, like, her like below the knee wrapped in blue, and then I feel like they probably actually had a proper like peg leg that she was, like, attaching to the knee there, and then sort of kneeling on it with the one leg, because all the balance stuff was what I was thrown by. You know, if they were just bluing her whole leg out and doing the whole thing as a digital after effect, I don't feel like the upper body play would have happened like it did.
Well, and they made a big point of her when she's in interrogation that she does, like, a full turn, right?
Yeah.
To show that there's no leg there, which I thought was a nice touch. Good on them.
She doesn't have a leukemia stump.
No, she does not. Yeah. Well, it was bone cancer. Was it? Yeah, it was bone cancer.
Bone cancer.
So not necessarily leukemia. That's marrow cancer. So, you know, it's adjacent.
Yeah. What the fuck is bone cancer called then?
Bone cancer, Josh. Just bone cancer.
No, doesn't it have it has, like, a name?
Yeah,
it's not just called bone cancer.
Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. Osteosarcoma is the most common primary bone cancer, but there's several others.
So she's disgusted at the thought of someone opting for amputation.
She is, yeah, because it ruined her life, or at least it ruined her childhood.
Yeah, sure.
The whole experience. We haven't really talked about Dr. Jean. Dr. Jean as the closeted dentist, I think, was fantastic. Just like nailed the character. And the I don't know if that was a set that they dressed or it was location, but I loved his office. I thought it was like super futuristic and cool. It
made you want to go to see him as a cosmetic dentist.
I can't afford a dentist who has an office that cool, but someday, maybe.
Man, I haven't been to the dentist in like 8 years.
It's been a minute.
6 years.
Yeah, I should go, but
yeah. I do like how people are, like, taking ownership of their bodies here.
Yeah.
And there's certainly some body positive empowerment going on, but man,
Well,
there is also some super weird shit in this episode.
But, but they are having, a reasonably good discussion about it on SVU.
Yeah.
Like, and some of them that, the older ones, kind of Kragan in particular, but also Amaro, who's kind of, he's like the straight-laced kind of ethnic kid who went to Catholic school. Yeah. They have a bigger problem with it than, Rollins, who has been through problems in her
Finn's
own
totally
life.
down.
Finn's down with it, but Finn a freak. So
for sure.
and Benson being the having the magical powers of empathy, she's willing to kind of jump into that world and try to understand it. I think they do, considering how far out they go on this one. They do a pretty good job of like trying to understand why people.
Yeah, not just like looking at them like they're freaks.
Exactly. Yeah. So like they're not looking at the guy with the wings who we never talk to. He's just an extra. But it's not that he's a total freak. It's like we've already kind of heard about this world from Nina and Seth and Jess, and then definitely and Warner. But then definitely Jess like really kind of tells us like why that might be an important thing to do, and why that might, some people need that in their lives, and that's fine. And it's really not, I don't know, for some people it's not that different than tattoos. It's just it's a part of them, and good on them if it doesn't hurt anybody else, I guess. I thought it was weird that the tattoo artist doesn't do any showstoppers like face tattoos or anything else. It's like, I don't know. Why is that going to scare off your celebrity clients?
Well, this is also back. I mean,
I guess this is before like YouTube
This is
rappers.
before like Post Malone was like out there trying to normalize face tats.
Yeah, Tekashi 6ix9ine hadn't gone to jail yet.
We've got a psychiatrist fucking with propofol.
Yep.
It looks like Steve's into some fucked up shit. And once again, we have psychiatrists who aren't profilers being the fucking worst.
Oh, absolutely. Psychiatry in general is not very well regarded in SVU unless they work for the NYPD or the FBI.
I mean, the lesson to take away from this episode is obviously don't go to a psychiatrist if you don't want your leg involuntarily amputated.
If you don't want your therapist jerking off to your bloody stump.
Did you look around his office? Did you get a look at it?
Oh, the Venus de Milo is a
yeah. There are multiple replica statues missing limbs. I don't know how Benson and Amaro didn't key on that immediately.
Yeah, well, there's like a Picasso kind of reproduction, some kind of cubist reproduction that is like also kind of a broken limb kind of thing.
Yep.
Everything in there is like broken limbs. I loved it. Really good. Really good set design.
I really liked him trying to hold on to Jess as a patient so he could keep murdering his joint to her session notes.
I mean, Miranda, if you had just like admitted that you love Steve from the get-go, none of this would have happened. But you got to jerk his chain left and right. You got to say you're just in it for the sex, and you're going to get an abortion, and then you don't get an abortion, and then you bring him back, and then you can let him go again. Just love the man, okay? Nothing. And 6 women would have still had left legs if you just loved the man.
Way to go, Miranda. I did like Benson and Rollins playing pervo mom stump hard-on shrink like a fucking fiddle. It's like, I just love when some criminal dipshit gets played as hard as he did here.
Yeah, he got played. I mean, but he's not like kind of the mastermind that we've seen sometimes.
No, he's clearly just
like Michael
deranged.
Pitt, who's like 2 steps ahead of them, but he is so deranged.
Yeah.
The one failing of this episode is that we didn't get to see him kind of like flesh the character out more, because he's only in it for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough screen time to really. Because they give that screen time to Britt Lower to like be the champion for.
I'm not saying that there's anything that you could cut, because everything in this episode is delightfully bizarre. Yeah. Just like from the pigeon coop fucking...
Yeah, this is the rare time that you're like, you know what? I feel like this episode needed like another 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
I love him saying I've seen trauma sexualized in certain cases.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
Yo,
it's
bro,
like, no
certain
shit,
cases?
man. Yeah, no fucking shit.
But his whole like society's not ready for me rationalization, like in his surgical suite, is fucking delicious. Like, just fantastic work.
None of them felt any pain. I kept them under while they were here.
You took every precaution. See that? Didn't want them to suffer. How many of them were there?
6 in all. Nina was a tragedy. But none of the other 5 had any problems. They're more complete now because of me. I transformed them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, his eyes get so deranged once they get into that, which is a random climate-controlled storage facility.
Yep.
I don't think that's the proper place to perform a surgery. I think that's even worse than the back of a truck, because the surgeries that he's performing are cutting through people's fucking arteries, Josh.
Yep.
And so, like, we're talking about, like, a risk for massive infections. So I've been in a lot of climate-controlled storage facilities in my day. There's usually dust in them. There's kind of things floating around. You could see, like, the top of his had that kind of cage thing to prevent you from overstacking your unit.
Which is what he's doing in this whole episode.
Yeah.
Overstacking his unit.
But there's no running water. And there are other units in there.
I can't tell you how much time I've spent in weird storage facilities, just doing film production work for 5 years.
Right now, half of my life is in a storage facility, and I spent so much time in there in May and June.
Overstacking your unit.
Yeah, and what I will tell you is that there are days when there are other people on the floor of your unit, Josh.
Yep.
And you hear them raising and lowering their door.
You hear every little sound.
You do. It's the concrete floors echo. Can you imagine what the sounds and, God forbid me, the smells of having somebody's leg sawed off just above the knee in a storage facility, I don't know, around the corner from the row that you're on would be like? Can you imagine?
Yeah, that's wild.
Like, I mean, I know he's drugged her pretty well, so she's not screaming, but oh, Jesus.
I mean, I only have one more note, and it's that last line, man.
If Nina's heart hadn't stopped, she would have been grateful too. Society's not ready for me. I can look at women and know how beautiful and powerful they can be. Like you two. You think you're special? You're boring. But you could be so much more.
Just beautiful.
I mean, and just salut. I need to go get another beer in a moment. But just cheers to everybody involved with this episode. I love it. Salut. Just fantastic.
Yep.
So I think
Wonderful.
we should rank this one. You know, obviously we rank these episodes every week. We're trying to fit these into the eventually 500 plus episodes of Law Order SVU that will have been watched by the time we finally get around to watching all of them. And the way we're doing that is with a...
Today they announced that Amaro's going to be back for episode 500.
For real? Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So that... wow, good for them. I'm glad they kind of mended that fence, because it seemed like maybe there was bad blood there. I don't really know. But so the way we rank these is a composite score that's built on 4 criteria. That's the quality, the guests, how problematic it was, and the depth and breadth of lives ruined over the course of the episode. and we have 10-point scale on each one of those. And quality. This is a really good one, right? This is fun from the front to the back, from the kind of weird choice of using the kind of the found security cam footage in the cold open to the last line where Hal Brightman is crazedly looking at Benson and Rollins.
Tell him you're boring.
I don't know how this isn't one of the best episodes that we've seen.
Yeah. Quality-wise, I think it's, I think it's probably...
I mean, we have not given a 10 out for quality yet. No, we have. I'm sorry. We gave a 10 to Stephen Collins to a trade.
Oh, yeah, trade, yeah, okay.
And in many ways, this is the kind of very similar to trade, right? It is awesome. I don't know.
It's really great. I'm not sure it's a 10. I don't have a problem going 9, though.
Okay, I'm fine with a 9. I mean, it's really good. Also, the guests are really good. I gotta get everybody's fucking names. Sorry.
Yeah, David Eigenberg is...
David Eigenberg is great, and Fischler is also great, and Jess Lower is also great. Like
Britt Lower.
Britt Lower, I'm sorry.
Jess Hardwick, yeah.
Yeah, Jess. But the three of them are... really good in their respective roles, and I mean, I liked Constantine.
You loved Constantine Maroulis.
Yeah, I loved him.
I actually thought that I liked Nicholas Macarone too, or Macaroni.
Yeah, he was good.
And Alex Hernandez, I actually really liked.
Yeah,
too.
Me too. I really
the Golden Gloves pigeon fucker.
I even liked like the weird, like the kid who had the weird interaction with Amaro. It's like.
Yeah, that kid was great, but he doesn't have any credits to really talk about that.
Yeah,
at least that I thought were interesting.
A completely unnecessary scene, but fun. I don't. Were they trying to establish like Amaro's like
as a man of the streets?
I guess. Yeah, I don't know, but I thought it was very good. I think you got to rate this pretty highly. I don't think it's a 10 because I don't think it's the kind of stunt casting.
I don't know that it isn't, though. I mean, this is Steve from Sex and the City.
He is really recognizable.
And he's... It doesn't take much to see this still being Steve, but like have it be like, oh, this is weird, Steve. This is if Sex and the City was fun.
Well, no, exactly, because it's like if you just transplant his mom had a horrible disfiguring car accident to the woman that he loves is a cold, confused, lawyer who can't just admit that she loves somebody. It could totally be a spinoff from Sex and the City. I don't know, man. And the other characters that get some serious screen time are really fucking good.
Yeah. No, I think Eigenberg, Fischler, and Lower are all just
top notch,
pretty fucking fantastic. And like Britt Lower really has a lot to do here. Fischler, like we've seen him do this in other things, so like it's sort of expected. But like we haven't seen Eigenberg do this.
No, and, I mean Fischler has the smallest part of them, but it's very effective. And
it just infuses his brand of weirdness into the show in a good way.
It definitely
that's more of like inspired casting because what you're going to get with him, but.
But it really is like adding kind of another like Lynchian twist to this fairly Lynchian episode of SVU. Like it's a weird trip into a bizarre world. It is.
Well, you saw David Lynch directed this episode, right?
Yeah, but it is like a Alice in Wonderland thing. Like it's
we're through the rabbit hole here.
It's Amanda in Wonderland is what it is,
or through the looking glass rather.
Yeah, Rollins falls through the looking glass, and at the end of it, she's like, you know what? Maybe I should cut my leg off.
Or at least get elf ears.
I don't. Is this a 10? I guess what I'm asking.
I think it's a 10
because
just the fucking
the look in Eigenberg's eyes in that storage facility.
His last scene in that shed in the storage unit is fucking off the rails. So fucking nuts. In the like best possible way. And then he tells them that they're boring, and it's just
and I mean everything about this character is pretty fucking nuts, right? Like because We didn't even talk about, like, one of my favorite things about Jess's character is she has like this like stomach churn face that she does when she realizes that
his mom was oh no, he's fucking jerking it to the notes. I know
that because his mom's leg got taken off when she was 13, that's when he started jerking off, and so
yeah. I mean, he's basically psychically fucking his mom's stump.
Again, apologies to any amputees or friends of amputees that might be on this. That's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to... we're doing the best that we can with the tools of language that have been provided to us and with the episode in front of us. and
I mean, we've been broken by 77 prior episodes of SVU that we've had to talk about.
Yeah.
So
none of them make us confront masturbation, I think, in quite the same way that this one does, right? Like,
yeah.
This one is clearly all about masturbation.
I mean, I think the last one made us also do that. The Sarah Winter insisting in the courtroom that her son was jerking it to her fucking his best friend.
Oh yeah, that's correct. That's absolutely right. So we're on a good run of
like it's actually more implied here.
Yeah, but this is that was very explicit. This is definitely implied. All right, so that talk of good performances seamlessly leads us to the next field, which is how problematic was this episode?
Oh, God damn it.
I mean, again, it's really, give me a break.
I mean, we feel so bad talking about this episode that we've given 4 or 5 disclaimers. Like, sorry, we've apologized a lot for this episode,
and then gleefully launched back into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is an episode where the body modification is just an entree into a much darker world, right? Where it's like a forced modification for one's own sexual gratification.
Well, no, it's to make them special, Adam. Didn't you hear his diatribe?
Yeah, but it's one of the most... Anyways, I'm saying that this is a fucking bizarre-ass world.
Yeah.
And... it's top to bottom, right? From forcing us to think about Amaro's sexual tension with her weird captain from Georgia to her white tattoo, which is also kind of gross. To how shitty car services used to be, to how racist this episode is against Sikhs, and how bought and sold and paid for this episode is by both the proto, rideshare business, which was probably just in its incubus-y. They probably used their first run of VC funding to fund this episode, to shoot down cabs, to get just a little bit closer to people kind of abandoning them en masse. So they're going after cabs, Sikhs, dentists, psychiatrists. Big way psychiatrists. And I gotta say...
They're still coming down very pro body.
They're
body
pro
empowerment,
circus freaks. We don't see anybody with a forked tongue chopping somebody's leg off against their will. I kind of wished one thing.
There's surprisingly little judgment about the elf ears. You're expecting a lot more because you're expecting this unit to view, or you're expecting cops to view them as freaks.
Well, and I mean, this show often kind of comes down hard on people being freaks for one thing or another that isn't necessarily that freaky.
Sure.
In real life, or if you just look at it from a different perspective. And they don't really in this episode. They're not even that hard on the sex worker, and they're often really hard on prostitution. I think as a whole in the series, and they're not that hard on her. They do portray her in a pretty negative light, I suppose, but still, it's just delightful, Josh. I'm sorry, but
I think we're at the same place. I'm thinking 10.
It's gotta be, right? I mean, it's fucking insane.
Yeah. I mean, it's easily It's the most out there episode that we've seen.
Yeah, just as like the premise is far out there, and they kind of did their work. Like they did their work to separate a premise that they could have easily kind of ham-fisted like they often do.
Yep.
From like, so they separated like something that's truly kind of beyond the
Out
pale.
there. Yeah.
Like truly like not GGG from something that is. And they're able to kind of toe that line, and good on them for that.
Yeah, it's kind of a pretty deft tightrope act that that they pull off here. I mean, there are the other parts that are problematic about the episode, but like that part, I'm kind of shocked at how
I'm totally am too, because
and maybe we're so far outside of that subculture that like if we were in that subculture or even like adjacent to someone who's adjacent to it, then maybe we'd be reading it differently. Like maybe it's just we're such fucking squares.
I mean, I think that's true, but I mean, this is a show written for squares, right? But in this particular episode, I feel like they do a good job of educating, like there is a difference between carving or getting your own ears, done to look like Arwen.
Yeah, versus having your leg like
sawn off by a fucking monstrous psychiatrist. Now, I wish they'd use the same the same kind of deft touch when they talked about freegan boat dwellers, because I felt like they came down pretty hard on that guy, and I feel bad for it.
I don't feel like they did, actually. I mean, he's sort of portrayed in a weird way, but I actually think that they're okay with him.
Oh, okay. So, Josh, depth and breadth of lives ruined.
This is the one place where it's not that.
It's not that. I mean, despite having a body and having
a body drops,
a loving mother, and a community that is going to be kind of reeling from this to some extent.
I don't know that they will be that much. Like, I don't know how plugged into the body mod community she was.
Well,
she was plugged in. Jess knew her, but like, you didn't get the sense that she was like super, super, super into that scene. Like, I felt like she was just sort of getting into it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And, like she was into tattoos, I suppose, because the tattoo artist knew her.
Sure.
But now, do you think that Seth and Jess's relationship survives this? Because I think Seth is going down for stealing that nitrous tank. So that's some fallout there. And, of course, I'm pulling for the guy because he was delightfully schlubby, and I want his music career to work out.
Yeah.
And who else do we have? So Dr. Gene, obviously, his brother is going away for a long time. And I think he's been outed by this. It's hard to say 100%, but I have a hard time believing that he's going to be able to stay in the closet, which it sounded like that was going to be a problem for his practice. Who knows? I
do think the fallout's relatively low.
Exactly.
On this one. And then I suppose we have his 6 other victims who they're not dead, and they did get paid. But he does say that he'd never hurt his girls, so I don't think that any of the other ones. We can assume they're alive.
All of them were more beautiful as a result of the operation. I think that's also stated.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much we can say that they made like an informed decision and feel like they aren't worse off for it, because I think in the one instance that we see, she didn't do the thing that she was going to do, and she's hobbling around on one leg, and I don't think she's happy about it, but she did. She's sort of like reconciled with the fact that, I did get $25,000 for my leg.
And I'm amazed that I'm alive was kind of like how I heard her character. And I guess one can assume that the other women are not doing that great, but we don't hear from them, so we don't really know.
Yeah, so we can only speculate.
But
I think we're probably looking at like a 4 or 5, right?
I think we're looking at a 4, honestly, because bodies drop practically every week, and Mom had already seemed to lost her daughter anyways, right? So I feel like
she didn't know her at all.
She didn't know her, and she thought that something terrible was going to happen to her. So that gives us an 8.25, Josh.
It's a very high score.
A very high score. Let's see exactly where that sits. So that makes it tied for 4th place with
the very next episode.
Yeah, with, funny enough, the very next episode, the Peter Jacobson, Reggie Cathy, Pippa Black, Rhodium Nights, that features Don Cragen waking up in a pool of Pippa Black's blood. So, honestly, I like this one more than I liked Rhodium Nights, but Rhodium Nights had the fallout for, one of our main characters, so that's what got it back into contention.
And yeah, it's really the depth and breadth of lives ruined that cost this,
Yeah, exactly. And I thought
there's no way to bring it up from where it is. I don't
think so. Because right above it is, of course, Slaves, which we covered in I Really Got to Do a Rectal So.
Sure. ...
The season 1, episode 22. So that was 10 with a Bullet for Guests. That was the Andrew McCarthy, the episode that launched the SVU
the ultimate
stunt
casting.
Yeah. Or at least the first one. It's the beginning of it's.
But I mean,
it's amazing. Andrew McCarthy.
I can really only think of like
one or
Luke
two
Perry episode,
and maybe the Mark Paul Gosselaar one is pretty,
and maybe the Fred Savage one.
Yeah, but Eigenberg didn't get the chance to do that, but he kind of was channeling Andrew McCarthy's like mad, crazy eyes, I guess. So I liked that, but that one really the kind of ruined life that the poor Romanian slave girl was going to have after having to live in that box.
Yep.
I think for us, I don't know. Sometimes there is a fate worse than death, I suppose. And
it's living with the horrors of what's befallen you before.
Yeah, exactly. Salute to SVU for making another great one, and I'm really glad when the randomizer gifts us something as delightfully just bizarre and fucked up as
this was fucking out there.
So I guess with that, we've been talking for quite a while, and I don't know that there's that much I'm going to be able to cut out. So I think it's time to roll the next one and get on with our lives, Josh.
All right. So we're firing up the randomizer, going over to episode.lol, which was built for the podcast by friend of the pod, Flat. The tape is spinning. Bill and Ted are decidedly displeased with being thrust through the tubes of time and space. And we have found ourselves in season 19, episode 21.
Interesting.
Guardian. Finn investigates a man's claim that his sister was gang raped. That's the whole description on both the fandom wiki and the IMDb page. So
it has Big Daddy Kane in it.
It does. Yes.
And George Wallace. So that's interesting, at least.
Yeah. I was surprised to see them both when we watched this. Obviously, we are taping 2 in a row, so we have seen this episode.
Yeah.
We'll refrain from saying anything about it.
Yeah. Those two definitely jumped off the page, though, when I first...
Oh, yeah, like when you see Big Daddy Kane in the credits, and you're like, really?
What?
That's strange. So, yeah. As always,
rate and
let's...
review.
Rate and review the fucking podcast.
Tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends, tell your congressman. Unless your congressman, well, if your congressman is Matt Gaetz, then we've probably made fun of him at some point. You can tell him.
Or Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't know if she'd get it, but...
No, she wouldn't get it. Lauren Boebert wouldn't get it.
No.
Lauren Boebert's husband's too busy exposing himself.
But tell your congressman that it's not, we use SVU as an entree into the various tangents and flights of fancy that it brings us, it brings us places. It takes us on a journey, in this case, a journey through body modification. And sometimes we learn a lot in the course of that episode. I learned about dredging the Newtown Creek and about how high the water level was during Hurricane Sandy. And things that I didn't even bring up over the course of this episode, but I could have. And next week...
And made for an even longer episode.
Yeah, next week, hopefully, there are some other bizarre flights of intellectual fancy that we are taking on. Now, it being season 19, I'm not holding out much hope.
I wouldn't hold your breath, but...
You never know.
Yeah. Not the high point of the series, as we've discussed before. I believe almost all of the lowest episodes that we've covered are from season 19.
To my knowledge, we only have one season 19 episode that is not in the absolute gutter, and that was the first part of
Intent.
that was Intent, exactly. The first part of the
catfish, the Chris Birdman catfish thing. Yeah.
Exactly. But we'll see what this one
does. With the double
does.
catfishing and...
Oh, the one
bag.
that features Who's Gonna Change My Bag. So, speaking of which, I have some work to do this week, because that is on my agenda now that I've finished all my other duties. Josh knows what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Who's gonna change my bag?
But, guys, until then, maybe we'll have some delightful news next week. We'll see. But keep on munching, guys.
Yeah. Munch everyone's Benson.
Please.
Bad news, Seth. Talked to Dr. Brightman. He's pressing charges for a stolen nitrous tank.
What do you care about that? Seriously. I didn't know dentists qualified as special victims.